What's the right way to measure how our investments are doing? That's what I'm thinking. Recently, I was at a graduation party and got to talking with some folks that I didn't know very well at all, and two of the folks were retired, and I had a really interesting conversation with, in particular, one of them, and it got me to thinking about how we measure our investment success. And as you might imagine, we go to a cocktail party or an event and somebody finds out that I'm a financial planner and they talk about the stock market and ask how the market's doing and what my advice would be, that sort of thing, which is great. I love talking about my work. It's fun for me. Although, of course, clients and viewers know that financial planning has a lot more to do with other things than just investments, and more other things can be more important in our situations. So anyway, I was talking with this gentleman, and through the course of the conversation, he let me know that he had worked, I think he was a librarian, so he has a nice state pension here in Wisconsin that's indexed with inflation, or indexed anyway. It goes actually above inflation usually. And between his pension and Social Security, he didn't have to take any money out of his retirement accounts other than what was required by the required minimum distributions. And so he said there's a great situation there, but he said he's got an investment person and a couple of people maybe even, and he said that he was interested, his measurement, how he evaluated his folks each year was saying, listen, what did inflation do, and did his investments outperform inflation? If they didn't, then that was an indication that he should move to a different advisor. And then he asked me, well, what's inflation at now? And, I don't check it on a daily basis. It doesn't make that much difference day to day or even month to month. Since then, I've checked it. I think inflation has come down. I think it was 3 or 3.5% last time I had looked at it. So down from what it was back in 2022, of course. But it really struck me as interesting that here's this gentleman who doesn't need his money that he's saved up for retirement, right? A pension, Social Security is covering all of his needs. And yet his metric was, and it was very focused on, am I keeping up with inflation on this money that I'm not planning to use for myself at all? Right? And you just think of those two things, and maybe I didn't bring it up it didn't seem appropriate at the time. Maybe I need to work on my communication skills a little bit to help somebody. If it was a client, of course, I'd dig into it a little bit and try to find out what was driving that. But just this dichotomy, it made me think about how are we benchmarking? How do we measure how well we're doing with our investments? Is it, and you might guess, I don't think it's appropriate to say, well, listen, here's this measure of inflation that doesn't affect me at all, and I want to benchmark my investments to this thing that's not meaningful. And a similar thing could be said for how is the stock market doing? What's the S&P 500? Or what's the Dow Jones doing? And am I beating that? I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with what our goals are. So I think the right way for us to look at this is, how is our investments philosophy, how are our investments doing relative to what we're trying to accomplish? Perhaps this gentleman had children or grandchildren that he was saving for, and then inflation's not the deal, but how is his growth going on an overall basis? Right? Maybe he should have been in an aggressive position because the money's not for him to use in the next 10 or 20 years, but it's for his grandkids to use over the next 50 years. I don't know, right? But trying to identify what our goals are and then having our investments be subservient to that is much more appealing than picking an arbitrary benchmark of some sort and trying to match that up. So that's what I'm thinking about today. As always, interested in knowing what you're thinking about. If you're watching this on YouTube, jot a comment in the comment box or shoot me an email directly. And as always, thanks for watching.